Hey everyone, welcome to the Significant Coaching Podcast. I'm Matt Rogers. Thanks for coming back. I have a great guest today, somebody that's been a friend of mine for almost 15 years. I coached against him when I was at the University of Verne. He's at the University of Redlands, one of the best basketball minds you'll ever meet, Coach Rich Murphy. And we really had a great talk. I'm going to get into Rich here in a little bit. Um, but I need to talk about what I experienced this week. And it's actually in my blog of significance this week, I actually wrote about it, but I want to talk a little bit about it too. My son had his 11th birthday last week, and we couldn't do a birthday party on his birthday weekend because my daughter had a volleyball tournament. So we had it this weekend. So he had three of his best buddies over for a sleepover. And if you remember your sleepovers when you were that age, you know that they're just as fun as can be. And the four of them had a blast. Um, what I found really interesting, in 11-year-old boys, there's nothing more awkward, obnoxious, sarcastic than an 11-year-old boy. And boy, were they together, they became a monster. But they had a lot of fun. The morning after, I made them a big breakfast. I made them crepes and bacon, and they ate it up. They had a blast, okay? And remember, these guys are 11 years old. So my expectations in terms of demeanor and their comfort level being in somebody else's house, they're shy, they're obnoxious and sarcastic, but they're still, it's coming from a place of shyness and being naive, okay? But after breakfast, they all went back down to the basement, and the three boys that came over went down first, and then my son, and he looked at me and said, "Daddy, thank you for breakfast." Okay. But none of the other boys, as they left the house, ever said thank you to my wife and I. Now, I'm not being pretentious here. I'm not being self-righteous here when I'm telling you this. These kids were raised right. They're good kids, but they were 11. Okay. And, as nervous as they were, probably being in somebody's house, the idea of saying thank you probably didn't pop in their head because they were so excited to go back down in the basement and play again. Okay. But for me, the reason I'm talking about it today, not because I'm upset that they didn't say thank you, nothing like that. Okay. But for me, it got me thinking about recruits, and it got me thinking about what college coaches are looking for in a recruit. Because all these college coaches I'm talking to, I asked them, what do you need? What are your priorities? And every single one of them talks about that character. And it's important, if you're a parent, if you're a student athlete listening to this, it's important that you understand the power of that thank you. It's so important to that journey. Not only the words, but your actions. Okay. I have a great group of kids that I coach. After every practice, okay, I get a fist bump or I get a hug. Even if I just were yelling at them like a tyrant for 2 hours, I get a fist bump, I get a hug, I get a thank you. And I'm so appreciative of that because it reminds me, maybe they didn't play well that day. Maybe they didn't give their teammates their best effort, but they're still good boys. And they're still kids that care. And they're still human beings. And that's a great reminder to me as a coach, but it's a great reminder to you as a human being how important that thank you is. So what does it look like if you don't say the words? When you open the door for somebody, or somebody's walking down a parking lot and a dollar bill falls out of their pocket, or their keys fall out and they don't realize it. And you say, "Hey, excuse me, you dropped this," and you go grab it and pick it up for them, or you open the door. That thank you, whether verbal or through action, tells a college coach that you're somebody they want to be around because you have that characteristic that they can trust, that you're going to be a good teammate. You're going to be a good student in the classroom. You're going to treat their community that they're bringing you into, you're going to treat it right. So I'm so happy that my son has good friends that he cares about. I'm so happy that they can come to my house and my wife's house and have a good time and have something they'll remember for the rest of their life because they had a blast. You know, I finally had to kind of shut it down about 11:30 because I think they would have come through the roof if I would have let them, and they would have stayed up all night. But to me, I'm happy that they had a great time. But it was that thing that caught me like, gosh, they didn't say thank you. Okay. And I want you recruits out there to remember that. Coach calls you at the end of that call, whether they're going to recruit you or just, they just want to say hi and get to know you. Always thank them. Thank you for looking at me. Thank you for your interest in me. And I can't tell you how far that's going to go with them wanting to call you back again and continue to recruit you. So it's a great transition to our guest today, Rich Murphy, because there's not a kinder person in the world. There's not a guy that cares about doing the right things and teaching the right things in the world than Rich Murphy. Um, he has had a great career. He took over the University of Redlands in 2007, so he's in his 17th season, and you'll hear this in the conversation. I don't think he'll come out and say it. I don't remember coming out and say it, but I think he's finding his flow. I think after 17 years at Redlands, I think he's found who he is, what he wants his program to be. Um, I think he's found a really significant way to teach and coach that makes him happy. I think he's enjoying the process of coaching like he is maybe he's never had before, and he's and he's having these amazing seasons. Um, Even going back into the COVID years where they weren't sure if they were going to play, his teams were just rocking it, and it's all because of him. He's just a great coach. He's a great leader, and I was so impressed. I usually don't ask about a coach's background, but because I know Rich and I've known him for so long that I wanted to learn more about him. So his story about growing up and how he got into coaching and his mom and dad and how generous of people they were, and what his faith, how his faith played a big role in who he became, and learning Spanish, and that got him a job as a teacher. So it's just a really great background. I love learning more about him, and I think you're going to have a fun conversation that's going to be on top of you here in a bit with one of my favorite guys, Coach Rich Murphy. Enjoy. Coach Murphy, you've been coaching for a long time. Where did it start for you? When did you know you wanted to do this for a living?
Well, I mean, Matt, that's a great question because when I first started out going to college, everyone told me to get a business degree, get into the business world and that was the direction I thought I had to go. And while I was playing, I just love the sport so much. I mean, it's been a big part of my life growing up and everything. And for me, I wanted to stay close to it. And I didn't know any other way to stay close to it but to coach, to be honest with you.
Right.
And so I went away from the business. I got my degree in Spanish. I got a credential in Spanish. I got my master's degree in kinesiology. And I figured, well, I think I could probably get a pretty good job if I'm a Spanish teacher instead of a PE teacher. So the doors opened up for me when I graduated, and I got a high school job down in San Jose, actually in Cupertino, California, at a small school called Monta Vista
Yeah.
in Cupertino. And I took the head boys job there. And that's where I kind of started coaching, was at the high school level, and I taught Spanish my first couple of years there. Before that, while I was still in college, they gave me a freshman job at a local high school out in Humboldt County, where I was at Humboldt State University. So I coached a freshman team there, and then the following year I got my credential and coached at St. Bernard's High School, which is a private institution. They actually paid for me to teach a Spanish 1 class and coach their freshman boys. I had never taught a class in my life, and they gave me a Spanish 1 class and said, "Here, it's all yours. Do what you want with it."
That's great.
And I was clueless. I was completely clueless. And The only thing I was good at teaching that class is I was really good at catching the kids that were cheating on tests. That's what I was good at because I was really good at that in high school myself.
Right.
So that was the only good thing I did for that class is I taught those kids not to cheat. So I
That's
think they
great.
learned something, but we'll see. So
What
that's
did
how I kind of got started in coaching a little bit.
what did you think of your Spanish education once you had to teach it?
Well, funny, when I was getting my credential,
Yeah,
I had to go in front of a panel of professors and I had to teach them a certain part of Spanish. I think it was like the past, present, or whatever it was.
sure.
And I sat down in front of them and I had to teach the three of them, and they were all college professors. And I got done with it and I thought, well, that wasn't very good. And one of the professors came up to me and put her arms around me and said, Rich, you did an awful job. And and I said, well, does that mean I don't get into the credential program? And she says, no. She says, we really feel like you're going to be a really good teacher. So we're going to pass you and get you into the credential program because of the fact that we can see that we think you'll affect a lot of young kids' lives. So that's how I ended up getting the credential program because they didn't see my talent as a teacher as much as they saw my talent, I think, more as as an educator
Right.
rather than a subject. Like a Spanish teacher, they didn't think I was going to be that good, but they saw me as being a good educator. And she took that chance on me and pushed me into the credential program because of that.
What great forethought, because you are, you know, that when I think of you as a teacher and a motivator. So that's fantastic. What a great story. Were either your parents into coaching or anything like that?
No, they weren't. Matter of fact, my mom was born and raised in Argentina. And my dad was born and raised in Montana. And my dad was quite the athlete. He was a football player, basketball player, loved sports, had an opportunity to go and play in college, but went into the military instead because he was afraid of being drafted. So he enlisted and got into the Marines. And I think that's where his athleticism or his opportunity to play kind of stopped at that time.
Right.
And my mom was a big athlete. She was always into sports. She never played really any organized sports, but she was one of those people that wanted to prove everybody wrong in everything that she did. She was at an she was at an American school in Florida where she got her education, being a Spanish speaker, a native Argentine, being a
Right.
Spanish speaker and everything. So
That's
she
great.
always wanted to prove everybody wrong in everything that she did. So
That's great.
yeah,
What a great thing to have in your head. If
yeah.
you want to do well in this world.
I'll tell you, my dad, I mean, we all got into sports. I have two older brothers and we were all into sports, baseball. We played everything, soccer, basketball. Basketball actually came late into my life. I didn't play basketball until almost close to middle school that I got into basketball. But baseball and soccer were big, and my dad coached us a lot in those things that we did. And he was he was definitely a parent, of course. One of my most memorable experiences with my dad was I was a freshman. No, I was on the JV team in high school, no, sophomore team in high school. And no one goes to sophomore games, let's be honest. And I was on the free throw line and I think the game was tied and I got fouled on the last second thing and maybe 2 seconds to go. And all I had to do was make one for us to probably win the game. And I got to the free throw line, I took two dribbles, and then it's dead silent. All of a sudden, I hear my dad going, "Don't blow it, Rich." And just I mean, I just knew at that time, it's like he's really into this. And I didn't blow it, just so you know.
That's
So,
great.
but
I had the same conversation yesterday. My senior year, my last game, 4,000
uh,
people, regional final. I'm at the free throw line, and it's dead silent.
yeah,
And I hear a voice say, "Don't blow it, Rogers." And it's my brother. It's my older brother.
your older brother.
Yeah,
There you
yeah,
go.
yeah. I had similar circumstances. It was just a little bit more on the line with my
Yeah, a little more pressure. There was no one in the gym. That's why I could hear him because there was nobody
right,
there, except for him and a couple other parents. So,
right.
yeah.
Did your mother raise you bilingual?
She tried, to be honest with you. Both my older brothers, she tried to raise them bilingual, but when they got into school, they were kind of like Spanglish. They would,
Right,
I have to go El Baño, and the teachers got kind of frustrated with that.
right.
They try to make her focus just on one language. So by the time
Wow.
I got old enough to get into school before or after them, she it really didn't happen. It didn't happen much.
Did you have
But
enough to go get your certificate? I mean, did you feel like you knew the language a little bit?
well, to
Just
be honest with you, I actually I served a mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and I spent 2 years in Venezuela proselyting and learning the language. So that's where most of my language learning came from. Um, Actually, when my mom and dad were married, they came to the States. We ended up in California. My mom became the hub of her siblings, and my mom has 11 brothers and sisters. And when we were in California, they started moving and they moved into our house. About eight
wow.
of them moved into our house when I was growing up. So there was a lot of Spanish spoken when I was younger. And eventually her parents moved to California also, and all the gatherings with all the siblings and all my aunts and uncles. I mean, it's weird to think that she has so many brothers and sisters that when my mom was pregnant with my brother, the oldest, her mom was pregnant at the same time.
Amazing.
And one of my uncles is younger than both of my brothers. So
Wow.
tells you how big of a family
Yeah, that's
we
fantastic.
had.
I grew up kind of the same way. I was an uncle in seventh grade. Now I don't have none of my nieces and nephews are older than me, but
Right.
I have a niece that's about to turn 42. You
Yeah.
know, I'm gonna have 3 or 4 nieces and nephews that'll be 40 this year.
There you
So
go.
that's a
Yeah.
great it's a great way to. How did your dad handle that with all the siblings in the house?
Dad went to work.
He went to work.
Dad handled that.
That's great.
He went to work and mom handled everybody and took care of everybody during that time. So
Great.
yeah, he was a banker back in those days, and he just went to work.
That's
And
great. What a great story, man. I didn't know that about you. That's fantastic.
yeah,
Hey, I want to transition a little bit. I do so much with college recruiting for these last 10 years, and I've been working with I help so many kids get to college.
right.
I want to talk to you a little bit about, now that we don't compete against each other. I want
Yeah.
to understand your board a little bit. How do you go about your recruitment cycle? Do you have a strategy? Do you have a 3-year strategy, a 4-year strategy? Are you only looking at juniors? How do you go about kind of building out what you're going to recruit every year?
It's a little different for me at the Division 3 level. It's hard to have like a 3-year plan, to be
Right.
honest with you, because because I don't know. For me, I'm a year-to-year coach. I look at my 20, like an example this year, my 24s. I'm looking at my 24s right now, and I've got a couple 25s that I'm very interested in. But we focus on the 24s for me.
Sure.
So I'm a year-to-year type of recruiter.
Okay.
I'll have some kids, the 24, I have the 25 or 26 that have come to our camps and clinics that I keep on a list. But I really focus in on the year that's ahead of me.
Sure.
Because try to go 3 years out of Division 3, it's difficult because we don't have athletic scholarships,
Right.
and you know that. So
Right.
I have nothing to offer these kids. Like from 3 years from now, hey, I'll give you an athletic scholarship.
Right.
Well, that's not going to happen because I don't have that.
Yeah.
So that's why I kind of tend to focus more on year to year rather than going ahead of that, because I feel like I'm more successful in building that opportunity of getting them to apply, getting a financial package, doing all those things in Division 3 that we have to do
Right.
to be able to make it affordable or even make it possible for them to be able to attend our school.
Right.
So that's kind of how I start my process. I get out we get out as soon as the season ends. Like an example, right when our 23 season ends, we head to the spring stuff and start looking for 24s.
Right.
We have some on our list already, and then we go look at them to make sure that we need to keep them on our list, and then we start looking ahead to see who else is out there that might be a possibility that we can add.
Right.
So right when the spring hits after our season, we're really pushing on those 24s. Same thing after this season ends. We hopefully have had the recruits already taken care of, and now we're going to 25. We start in the spring, start noticing those 25s, put those 25s we already have on our list, take a look at them, see if we need to keep them or remove them, and move on from there.
Let's talk a little bit about keeping and removing. What are some of those evaluation points that are special for you, that because your pet peeves, you know what you like to coach, you know what you don't like to coach. You've been doing
Right.
this for so long. You've seen it all.
Right.
What are some of those major category points that turns you away from a kid or just gets you tunnel vision on a kid? Where you're like, I love this kid. I'm going to go after her hard.
You always want talent. I mean, you always want to get the most talented players. There's no doubt about that.
Right.
But for me, talent doesn't mean everything, because you could get the most talented kid, and if she doesn't want to fit into a system, or not even a system, fit into a program and be a teammate and not worry just about themselves, and that's not going to work for me. You
Right.
know, I always want the most talent, but at the same time, I want the the best teammate when it's all said and done. I've had my successes of the fact that I've had really, really good teams. I haven't had superstars. I haven't had the kid that's going to stand out and just, destroy you night in, night out. I've had really good teams because I've got kids who really want to be part of something special and not so much concern themselves with, well, coach, am I going to start every game? Coach, are you going to do this? Coach, are you going to do that? The biggest shift in athletes that I've tend to have come across is, I know earlier on, you got a lot of athletes who would come to you and say, Coach, what can I do for you? And as I've gone along in coaching, it started to take a huge turn into, Coach, what are you going to do for me?
Right.
And to me, that's hard on me, because I want kids who want to be here because they want to be successful and they want to win basketball games
Right.
and they want to get a great education. They want to get a degree and do all those things. So when I go out recruiting, a lot of things, it doesn't take me long to notice who's a good player.
Right.
I've been at this a long time. It doesn't take me long. It'll take me 5 to 10 minutes to realize, well, she can do it, and she's a really good player. I spend the rest of the time watching how she acts on the court, how she interacts with her teammates, how she is on the bench when she's taken out of a game. How does she act when she's taken out of a game? You know, I want to see the personality more than anything else, because to me, the personality is going to fit a lot better for me if they are a good teammate. They're positive in everything that they do. They give high fives. They're supporting their teammates when they're on the bench. They're not looking in the stands, looking at parents, wondering, I don't know, coach is crazy. I can't believe he took me out. Things like that turn me off right away.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've had a lot of kids I thought were really good that I stopped recruiting just because of that fact alone,
You and me both.
because
Yeah.
you can't, there's things you can change. I feel like there's things you can change,
Yeah.
but attitude sometimes is hard to change once they're getting to that high school level.
Yeah.
If they think a certain way, it's hard to change that attitude and get them to be a team player if they've never been one. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Yeah.
So those are some of the aspects I really notice and look for nowadays.
Yeah. It's amazing you say that. I've got a freshman this year that we're starting,
Hmm.
and he's not ready to start in terms of his skill, but man,
Right.
he never turns the ball over.
Yep.
Always strong with the ball.
Yep.
Eyes are always on my eyes. Always talking. Always
Yep.
helping. Great teammate.
Yep.
And we're just he might have a box score where he scores 2 points, 2 rebounds, and that's it. But we look at the plus and minus differential, and we were plus 12 with him on the floor, and everybody else was plus 4.
Yep.
It's amazing.
No, and but you need kids like that.
Yes.
And they may not be the most talented, but I'll tell you, after 4 years, they're going to be one of the most talented kids, because they're going to commit and dedicate every day
Yep.
and not sit and whine about themselves.
Yep.
Well, I'm not playing. Well, we'll do something to change that.
Yeah.
Well, you won't, it's always somebody else.
Right.
It's not them sometimes. And I try to avoid those type of kids, because I want those kids. I always tell my players all the time, listen, relish in the successes of your teammates, because when you have it, it'll come back tenfold.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the way it should be. If you're always complaining and whining, then no one's going to be happy for you when you have those successes.
That's right.
So to me, recruiting's changed a lot for me. And I have to find high academic.
Yeah.
I need high academic kids that are gonna, do the job in the classroom.
Right.
And at this level for me, it's the most important thing, Matt, for me, is that these kids graduate.
Yep. Me too. Yeah.
That's the most important piece for me. It has been, it will always be, that they graduate and they get a degree and they get to move on with their life, because that's what matters.
Isn't it amazing though when you bring that up to recruit and it's almost an afterthought? It's almost
Yeah.
like it's their, I didn't, I guess that does need to be my priority. Yeah,
Yeah.
it does. It
Well, and
does.
one of the things I tell kids, listen, don't come here just for basketball,
That's right.
because heaven forbid you get hurt and you can't play anymore. Are you still going to be happy where you are? Because so many kids look at, well, what am I going to get out of this? What are they going to give me? What can, scholarship or whatever it may be, but they don't look at the whole thing.
That's right.
Because if you can't play anymore, are you still going to be happy?
Yep.
And I don't think they recognize that time. I think they recognize, but look, I got this scholarship,
Yeah.
or look, they're giving me this, rather than, well, okay, they're giving you this, but are you still happy there? Are they giving you the education you want, or are you
Right.
just taking what they're giving you through athletics?
Right.
Because the education's not there. What's the purpose of it?
Yeah.
So that's just my thought process.
No, I think it's right on, and I think every parent needs to hear that. And
Yeah.
I'm asking this question of all college coaches just because I don't think parents understand just the very simple idea is you don't have to recruit their kid.
Right.
It doesn't. They're scoring 25 points a game. They're getting 10 rebounds. It's great. You don't have to recruit them. So if they're not a good fit, they don't have the character, they're not a good teammate,
Right.
you can walk away in a second and you'll forget their name because you got 500 other kids to look at.
Yeah.
So
100%.
it's so good, and it's just that golden rule for a coach. I'm going to bring in kids that are going to treat the other kids on my team well. They're going to fit in. They're going to care about it, and they're going to care
Yeah.
about their education. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it was funny. I think it was about 4 years ago. We were in the conference tournament and we lost in the first round. And I went in that locker room after the game, and I saw about four kids that didn't care. I could tell that they did. I think in some aspect they were happy because then the season was over for them and they don't have to do this anymore. And I remember after the season, I sat down with my assistant coach. I said, we kind of gone through a rut. We weren't winning as many games as I'd like.
Yeah.
And we kind of sat down and said, what's wrong? And one of the things we talked about is we felt like we didn't have kids who were 100% committed.
Yeah.
And at the end of the year, we sat down with those kids and we talked to them and said, listen, are you 100% in? And they're like, no, not really, coach. And I said, then go. I said, I don't hold the key to the jail. The door is always open. And if you're not happy and you don't want to be here, that's fine. You know, get your education, finish your degree, and do those things.
Right.
When we got rid of those four kids, the next year was probably the best season in the history of the women's basketball program here at University of Redlands. And the personnel didn't change that much. It just had kids who wanted to do it rather than kids who weren't 100% in.
Right.
So for me, as I've changed these last couple of years, it's like when I recruit, I don't want you 80-20. I don't want you 90-10.
Right.
If you want to come here, it has to be 100%, and you have to commit and do it.
Yes.
So that's what I'm looking for even more so now is these kids that, are 100% in, not only athletically, but academically too,
It's
So,
great. Love it. It's the ideal message that every coach needs to have,
right.
and it's the way you have a healthy program. It's the way you sleep at night and want to get back up and do it again the next day.
Exactly. I
Yeah.
don't go to practice going, man, I wish she wasn't there,
Right.
and that's a good feeling for me as a coach
Right.
that you don't have to worry about, oh, is she going to actually practice hard today? Or is she going to, this or that? It's like, no, I already know I get to go to practice and I've got kids that are 100% committed. And for coaches, if you ask me, that's got to be a really good feeling to
Yeah.
be able to go to practice knowing you've got kids that really want to be there and are going to work their tails off. So,
And the results show it in your program.
right.
What you've done.
Right. I hope,
Yeah.
that's for sure.
Well, you're having your best seasons
Yeah.
right now.
Right.
I find it, I find it really interesting. You talk about, I don't want to show up and go, gosh, I don't want to coach her today, or I don't know if she's going to work hard today. But the idea for me is you recruited her. So you liked her. You believed in her.
Yep.
You saw her talent as something that can make your program better.
Yep.
And then for her not to have that attitude, well, he believes in me. I've got to bring it every day. I've got an opportunity to be great. I think kids get lost in that. Okay, maybe you're my 11th player and you're not playing a whole lot, but I brought you here for a reason.
Right.
What are you doing with that opportunity you've been given? How do you have that conversation in the middle of a season when you're seeing a kid that's kind of riding the pine and not getting the minutes they want? What do those conversations sound like?
Difficult. I mean, they're never great conversations. The problem is, and these kids I don't think understand what they struggle with is, I mean, I'm recruiting kids that are first team all conference,
Right.
Second team all state. I mean, every one of these kids have recognition, and every one of these kids play a lot. They do.
Yeah.
And the hard part is to bringing them in, and you have 11 of them now, that play a lot, that have always been really successful and have never really had to sit the bench. And to try to help them understand that it's no longer about you, it's about us as a team and a program, and our successes come because of us, is a hard thing to do because they don't want to accept it. But coach, I was this and I was that. Well, so was she, and so was she, and so was she. So it's finding the right attitude of players that understand that, you know what, I'm a freshman or I'm a sophomore and I'm not, but I'm going to keep working and prove that I will get those opportunities later, you know? And
Yep.
some of the kids, they don't know how to do that because they've never done it before,
Yeah.
right? They've had
Yeah.
everything not handed to them. I mean, they've worked for it, but when you're the star of your team, you're playing all the time. You're not having to work as hard.
Right.
And now you're being asked, okay, you're part of a team. Players are better than you, and you still have to work as hard and accept your role, you know, whether it be coming off the bench or be the 11th or 12th person. It's never a positive conversation.
Right.
And I lose kids because of that fact, because they don't want to accept it. They're like, coach, I should play more. And I said, I would play you more if you would help us benefit us by playing more. Right now, this individual's playing better than you, and they're going to get more opportunities than you.
Right.
But I always express the fact that we're not as good if you're not going 100% in practice and helping us be better. Every single individual in my program helps us be better because of the effort and they put in against each other.
Right.
You know? So yeah, they're not easy conversations, and sometimes they go, you know, different ways.
Yeah.
But when you find the right kid who's like, coach, I got it. I remember I had a kid, this was a long time ago, a kid out of San Diego who I loved to death, and she was a phenomenal shooter. I mean, she'd pass half court and she'd jack a three and make it 90% of the time. It felt like she could flat out shoot. And her first year as a freshman, she couldn't guard a paper bag, you know, because she never had to, you know,
Right.
because
Right.
all her coach put her in for was to shoot, and they ran a zone, and you know, don't worry about it. And after her freshman year, I tried to get her in like with like about 30 seconds to go before halftime. I try to sneak her in, and we'd get a three, and she'd hit it 90%. I mean, she would always hit it.
Right.
And the thing was, she could score, but she'd give up 20.
Right.
So at the end of the year, I sat down with her, and I was really nervous. I thought, this kid, she's leaving. There's no way she's sticking with me. You know, she's gonna go. And we sat down, and I sat down with her, and I said, hey, I said, do you know why you're not playing? And she says, yeah, I can't defend. And I went, yeah, that's right. And she says, I'm going to do better, coach. And I'm going to get better at it. I promise.
Great.
And those are the ones you kind of look at and go, oh my gosh, I thought for sure you were going to say, because you don't play me enough, you know, you don't trust, you don't believe in me, all these things. And by her junior or senior year, she was starting every game for me. Was she the best defender I ever had? No. But you know what she did? She put herself in a position that I didn't notice her.
Right.
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 If you don't get noticed out there, then you're doing a pretty good job,
Yep.
and you're going to get opportunities to play.
Girl
So
I'm guarding's not hurting us.
exactly,
Yep.
you know, so yeah, it's finding the right kid that's going to understand and accept that, you know, maybe it is me, you know, and those are rare to find nowadays.
Yeah.
I
Absolutely.
mean, let's be honest, Matt, we're in the life of social media,
Yeah.
which is huge and new to me too,
Me
but
too.
everything's posted about every good thing that they do,
Yeah.
you know, so when they're not getting what they want, sometimes well, it's hard for them. And I love parents. Parents are the greatest. There's some great, I love
Yep.
parents, but at the same time, they tend to help their kids be somewhat not delusional, but give them advice that's probably not the best. You
Right.
know, one thing I struggle with is when players are not producing or having a hard time, the first people they go to is their parents. And what's the first, what do most parents do for them? They agree with them,
That's right.
you know? And when they agree with them, it just solidifies their not negativity, but you know, that yeah, the coach is wrong. My parents agree with me,
Yep.
you know, rather than a parent saying, I don't like, for my dad, it was like, you're not good enough.
That's right. That was my
You're
dad.
not doing you're not doing what you're supposed to do. That's why you're not playing,
Yep.
you know? And for me, it was like, okay. And I kept working.
Yeah.
But sometimes, you know, parents, you're right, he should play you more, or yeah, you're correct. He's not doing what he needs to do. And then it doesn't help them, to be honest with you. So
You've made some great points over the last couple minutes. You know, I get the question every once in a while, especially when I'm around people and academics that don't understand athletics or never been a part of
right.
athletics. Why would anybody want to play college athletics?
Yeah.
Well, this is why.
Yeah.
When you get out of college, you talked about everybody in your team's first team all conference, second team all state. When you get out of college, every doctor has a great degree. You
Yep.
know, there's lots of people that went to Harvard and Yale and Stanford and got a doctorate, got a law degree at Berkeley, at Georgetown. No longer does anybody care what you did before. It's all about what can you do now? What can you do next? And as a student athlete at the college level, you are faced with that the first step on campus as a freshman.
Yep.
You know, I'm no longer the big fish in a little pond. I'm a little fish in a big pond.
Right.
What am I going to do to survive? What am I going to do to learn how to survive in this pond?
Right.
So, you know, it's your mentality and how you build your culture and how you build your program, to me, is ideal. And that's why I wanted to talk to you. So, and I want families to hear this. I want high school coaches to hear these things because it's invaluable. It really
Well,
is.
I mean, I had parents that were highly involved with me. I
Yeah.
mean, they were at every game. They were involved 100%. And there's a way to be involved and there's a way not to be involved,
Yep.
you know?
Yep.
And the support that I received from my parents was phenomenal.
Yep.
But they were always real with me too. You know, if I wasn't doing what I was supposed to do, if I wasn't working hard, my dad would say, you're missing your free throws. I said, yeah, I've been hitting them very well. Well, what are you doing about it? Well, you go get in the gym and start, shooting free throw. Go shoot 100.
That's right.
you know, and that positivity, was there, but it was like, you need to be a realist. You need to do these things. And like you said, once you get out of college, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
Yeah.
Are you going to go after it, or are you just going to sit back and hope it happens for you?
Yeah.
Are you going to go after that great job, or are you going to hope that, well, maybe someone else will hand me a job
That's right.
rather than work for it?
Yeah.
So I agree with you 100%. College is to prepare you, whether it be sports or educate, whatever it is to prepare you to go after things
Yep.
rather than sit back and wait for things to be handed to you.
Yep. Yep.
So,
My parents were the same way.
yep.
It wasn't, here, let me give you the solution to your problem. It
Right.
was, what are you going to do about your problem?
Right.
What are you going to come up with to fix what your issue is? I'm not going to do it for you. I'll help you with it. I'll talk to you about it. We'll throw some ideas around. But at the end of the day, you got to go fix your problem.
Right.
Right. So I think that's great.
I'll tell you, my mom was always a positive. I mean, she told me I could be a model. She told me I could be everything. I mean, she was just, blowing smoke like crazy, to be honest with you. But I knew that built confidence in me to know that, I can do things.
Yeah.
If I just put my mind to it and just go after it. And that's the support that helped me.
Yeah.
And I got into coaching, to be honest with you, man. I got into coaching probably to impress my dad.
Yeah.
That's why I got into coaching, because to be honest, I wanted to do everything I kind of did was to impress him.
Yeah.
And to be a winning coach and to do all these things was important to him. I don't know if it was important to him, but I wanted to make him proud of me.
Yeah.
When I played, when I coached, everything that I did, I wanted him to be proud of me, along with my mom. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But, him being my father, it was like, I want to be the best. So when he talks to his friends, he can say good things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
My son's doing
we're all
that.
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we're all like, and if you're not, that relationship with your parents probably wasn't very good. There was something wrong there from the beginning structurally, that if you're a kid, you don't want to do well and make your parents proud, there's something wrong. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Because even the kids that come from the worst areas and the worst homes, man,
absolutely,
pride of get any type of pride from their parent is everything for them.
It means everything.
It does. Even when they don't get it very often, or they don't ever get it, they're still waiting for it. They're hoping for it. They're envious when other kids have it. So, yeah.
And then guess what? They get into sports and they hope they have coaches that do it for them.
Exactly.
Yep. Because I think that's a huge piece too.
It is.
With these young kids. Some come from all different types of backgrounds and all different ways that they've gone through their life. And for me as a coach, I want them to know they got family.
Yep.
They've got someone when they come here I'm going to take care of them.
Yeah.
I'm going to look out for them. I'm not going to be perfect. Yep. I'm going to make a lot of mistakes. I'm going to stick my foot in my mouth many times.
Yep.
But when it's all said and done, I want them to know they have someone here
Yeah.
as a coach, as a parent, or whatever it may be, that I'm gonna take care of them, because that's the most important piece to me. When I got into this profession to start off with, I wanted to win every freaking game.
Yeah. Of
It's what you want to do. You
course.
want to
Of
win
course.
every time. You want to get recognized. You want to, hopefully move up in the ranks and get a D1 job and be on TV and do all those things. But for me, in the beginning, it was like that. But
Yeah.
then when I got here at Redlands, I started to realize that, what's important is that these kids have a great experience, and that they feel that they're loved, and that they feel that they're taken care of, and that they know that we're here for them.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I try to do things here,
Yeah. Same
that
here.
they've got an environment they feel comfortable in more than
Yeah.
anything else.
I'm like you. I've been telling kids, my kids, and that I coached, I love them. This is family. We don't use the words brotherhood and sisterhood and family. We don't take that lightly.
No,
I don't. When I say I love you, I don't take that lightly.
right.
I'm with you forever. You're 40 years old and you need somebody to call, and you need a job reference. You need to talk about life. You need to talk about what's going on.
Yep.
We're not going anywhere. We're not doing this to get a couple 21 seasons of a championship and then see you later.
Yeah.
The best part of my life is still when my guys and my girls that I've coached these last 25 years, when I get a phone call from them, or I get an email from them, or I get a Christmas card for them, and
Absolutely.
it's the most proud day I can have.
Yeah.
So I don't think kids really understand that. And there's a lot of young coaches that have to go through those trials of I want to win to understand why it's so important.
Right.
You know?
Well, you kind of see behind me here, I've got all these little single pictures behind me.
Yep.
These are every single one of these young ladies have graduated and played for me.
It's
And
fantastic.
when they graduate, they have to sign their photo, and I put it up on the wall, and I remind them, listen, it's not just about the 4 years here.
Yeah.
It's about the rest of your life, that you are part of my family.
Love that, coach.
So, and I emphasize that, and I make sure they understand that I'm always going to be here for them. You're not gonna please everybody.
Right.
There's kids that have gone away from this program probably hating me, and I get it. I can't
Yep.
please everybody.
Yep.
But I'm gonna do the best that I can to try to please as many people as I can, to let them know that they're always going to be taken care of and looked after.
And you and I both know this. There's probably a handful of kids who are like, gosh, I want those kids back, or if I could have them back and do it a little bit differently. I don't think they understand that they're constantly with us.
Yeah.
And if one of those kids called you today and said, Coach, hey, I know you and I didn't work out, or it wasn't, I wasn't very mature back then, but I need some help, or I want to have a relationship with you now, you'd be open arms with it.
Absolutely.
And
they don't, when kids walk away, it bothers me.
Same here.
Because I feel like, what could I have done better? Even though there's probably situations where there's nothing I could have done better, to be honest with you. They just weren't happy, and it just wasn't going to happen.
Yeah.
But for me as a coach, I never want a kid to walk away.
Right.
And when it does, it hits you differently. You sit back and go, what could I have done differently to make this better for that individual?
Yep.
And it weighs on me. I know it does. It weighs on me quite a bit.
Me too.
But I have to let it go and focus on the ones that are still here sometimes.
Yeah.
But you're always in the back of my man. Maybe I should have played her more. But
Yeah.
then well, would that have solved the problem, to be honest with you?
No.
So it's tough when they walk away, no doubt.
It is. It's amazing. I've been doing this racket now for 26 years.
Yeah.
How many of those kids have re-engaged with me, and we've connected.
Yep.
And we've had that chance to have that conversation, and it's so rewarding. It's so fulfilling for me to see the circle that I've gone through, and the maturity that I've gained, and the maturity that they've gained. They have kids now, or they're coaching now.
Yep.
They're experiencing the other side of it.
Yep.
It's wonderful.
Yeah.
One of my high school players from 23 years ago reached out to me, a couple weeks ago, and he's coaching, and he had a really hard relationship with his dad, and it really affected his character and how he did things. And he's grown up to this great young man and great dad. And, it's rewarding.
Neat.
Yeah.
Absolutely rewarding. I share the example of one of my young ladies just got married, and 3 of her bridesmaids were her teammates.
Yep.
And it's like, okay, I did something good.
Yes.
Because they didn't know each other until they got here.
Yeah.
And to see that those are the successes I really enjoy.
Me too.
Because they stuck together, and cared about each other, and we put
Yep.
an environment where they could care about each other. And now they've moved on and they're still caring about each other. And that, to me, that's some really good recruiting when it's all said and done.
You nailed it. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's not a better feeling. There really
Yeah.
isn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's great. Coach, if I have you on this podcast and I don't talk X's and O's with you, I would kick myself in the shins. I want to talk again, now that I don't have to coach against you and have to deal
Right.
with the talent and your coaching strategy. Tell me how you start a season when you're breaking down your talent and going, okay, this is what we're going to do with this talent. How do you evaluate your talent to build your X's and O's?
Well, I've never been one to have a plan and just stick with that plan and make the players adjust to it.
Right.
I've never been able to really do that.
Me
I
neither.
have an idea of how I want to do things, and I try to recruit that way to make it be that way, but it always ends up to the personnel how I'm going to do things.
Right.
Um, I know back in the day I had a post player who was phenomenal. She
Right.
was Victoria now Reina Teamu was her name, and she was big, she was strong, and she dominated the paint. So I geared our offense towards her, and we
Mhm.
had to slow things down. So we had a slower pace. Lately I've had some really good shooters, that have can knock the. So we worked on a lot of inside out. We worked hard on getting the ball, fast breaking, getting it inside, and kicking it out for threes and things like that. So for me, every season's going to be different depending on my personnel. This year, we're extremely young this year. I've got one junior and the rest are freshmen and sophomore. So it's been somewhat of a struggle. But when we started the season, I had a point guard who we were going to run everything through. And we had an offense set up. We were running like a motion offense, whatever it was, and it was really going well. And I'm thinking, okay, we're really young, but I see a lot of promise here.
Right.
And in her third game, she turned the corner and popped her Achilles.
Oh,
And
oh,
it was
devastating.
devastating. It was like, okay, now what are we going to do? Because everything was geared towards her. And her backup point guard, who we had planned to be a backup, tore her ACL her senior season in high school. And she'd already committed, she was already coming. So now I'm looking, okay, I don't have a point guard right now. So then I had to go, okay, we have to scrap the whole offense. We had to scrap
Right.
the whole offense. And I got my three guard, who's a good three guard, and said, hey, you're the point guard now.
Right.
And she'd never run point guard before.
Right.
So now, so now I'm going, okay, what's going to be our strengths and weaknesses now? Now we got to look at, okay, she's gone. Let's see what where's our strength going to be? So
Right.
now we've adjusted to try to figure out, okay, where's our strength? And we've had to adjust everything to make sure that now we're going towards our strength where our strength was gone.
Right.
So for me as a coach, I can never really plan on doing something a certain way because you never know when that's going to change.
Right.
So my preparation every year is just to look at my talent and go, okay, who's going to be the most productive for me? Great. What are we going to do to help her become productive for us? And
Right.
who's going to be able to be productive around her,
Right.
you know? And then build off of those concepts and then go into an offense or a defense and adjust that way.
Right.
I've been coaching a long time, 17 years at Redlands, like you mentioned, and I have played man-to-man defense my whole career.
Yep.
My whole career. I've
Yep.
always played man to man. I thought zone is the dumbest thing in the world to do. There's
Yep.
no accountability. You don't box out, all these kind of things. In the first time in my career, I am running zone defense, primarily zone defense now.
I'm doing the same thing, coach. I feel you. I don't have a point guard this year. We don't have any size.
Yep.
Yep.
And it's like, and we're super young.
Yep.
And I reached out to a colleague of mine who won the national title for Division III, and I reached out to her, had a great conversation with her. I said, how'd you do this? And one of the things she did, she switched primarily to zone defense.
Yeah.
And when I watched the national championship game, I noticed that the two teams were playing zone defense,
Right.
and they both had 30 wins. And
Crazy.
I'm thinking, well, how did you make that shift? And we sat for an hour and a half and just collaborated on how to do it. And
Yeah.
I'm taking it into what I'm trying to do now with such a young team.
Yeah.
This is going to be able to build with them for the next couple of years at least, and we can continue to get better and better at it.
Yeah.
So as a coach, no matter how long you've been at it, if you're stuck in a certain way to do things, I don't think you're going to be as successful
I agree.
as if you've been able to adapt to what comes into your program.
Yeah.
and how you put those pieces together to be successful. And that's always the enjoyment for me.
Me too.
That's fun.
That is.
How can I
Yeah.
get the best out of these kids
Yep.
with what we have? And
Yeah.
and of course there's frustrations when the things don't go the way you want, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of good things when it goes the way that you planned and hope for it to go.
Yeah.
So
The plan can be really good and the execution not so good.
exactly.
Yeah. There's
Exactly.
just certain things you can do.
Absolutely.
Coach, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you again. I miss you, and I'm one of your biggest fans, and the the 3 years that we got to coach against each other, I always looked forward to those games because I knew they were going to be absolute battles, you know, and I knew you had good kids, and I was, when we beat you or you beat me, it was always, man, I always felt bad when we beat you because your kids were so good, they worked so hard, and
Yeah.
when we lost, it was always like, I know we played our best game, I know you beat us because the ball went in a few more times and
Right.
execution was a little better, but just you're really impressive, and I'm thankful that you're in the world of coaching, and I'm glad um, kids get to be a part of your life and vice versa. So thank you for your time. I know you're going to have a great finish to the year, and I'll be cheering for you.
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate the opportunity just to chat, to be honest with you. I don't
Yeah,
I don't get to do this very often. The only one who listens to me nowadays is my wife because she has to. So, you
I'm
know.
with you. I'm with you. I'm in the same boat, but it's always fun catching up. Don't be a stranger if I can
Same
help
here.
in any way. But I appreciate you, and I wish you nothing but the best.
Thanks. Appreciate it, Matt. Take care.
You too, Coach. Take care. Bye
All
bye.
right, bye.
There you have it, the great Coach Rich Murphy. I learned so much that I didn't know about him, how he grew up, and the big family he had, and the extended family he had, and going on a mission. And if you know Rich Murphy, he's just a high quality human being. He's somebody I aspire to be. Just his demeanor, his character, how he treats people. So I loved coaching against him and hated coaching against him all at the same time because he's such a good coach. His kids play so hard. They're so well developed and trained that, if you're a parent and you're looking for a place for your daughter who's a girls basketball coach, there's no better place to look than Redlands out in California, because Coach Murphy's going to take care of them. He's going to kick their butt, but he's going to love them. He's going to make sure they grow. He's going to make sure they're mature. He's going to make sure they're disciplined. But he wants that long-term relationship with his kids. He wants them to be a part of his life and his family, and it shows. So just really proud of that friendship, excited for all he's going to do in his career. I hope he keeps doing it for another 20 or 30 years because he makes our profession better. So thank you for listening. I love this conversation. I was looking forward to it, and I hope you did too. But if you're enjoying these, make sure you subscribe on Amazon or Apple or Spotify, any of those platforms. If you'd like to send me an email, please do so at coachsignificance@gmail.com. And I'd love to hear from you if you want to give me feedback, if you have questions that you'd like me to ask coaches. I'd love to do that. If you have questions about recruiting, feel free to reach out to me. You can go to my website at significantcoaching.net. And you can see my book there. You can see my blog. You can see my other podcasts with the wonderful Beth Cook. We call it Be Significant, where we interview leaders in the world in all sorts of different categories and platforms. And those are really fun conversations if you'd like to listen to my other podcasts. But if you're interested in recruiting, it's really what I do. I'm a college scout and a college recruiter, a college advisor. I help families all over the world. Check out my website and learn more. And don't be afraid to schedule a time with me. If you've got a student athlete in your family that wants to get recruited, I'd love to do an assessment with you and get to know them and see if I can help you. And if I can, great. If not, I promise you'll leave with some good advice, and I'll make sure that your kid leaves with some confidence in their journey. So thank you, everybody. Thanks for hanging out with me. And I'm so excited. Oh, do we have some great coaches? We got a former NFL All-Pro player coming up. and a couple of great college coaches coming up. And we're going to continue to have great conversations. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your January. Bye-bye.